The autumn of 1982 brought with it the familiar ritual of new beginnings at Lincoln High School. Mrs. Henderson's third-period American history class buzzed with the nervous energy of students finding their places, both literally and figuratively, in the carefully arranged rows of wooden desks. Sarah Mitchell entered the classroom with her typical quiet confidence, her auburn hair catching the morning light that streamed through the tall windows. She carried her books close to her chest, a habit she'd developed over the years to shield herself from the chaos of teenage social dynamics. Michael Thompson had arrived early, as was his custom. He preferred the sanctuary of an empty classroom to the crowded hallways where social hierarchies played out in cruel and unpredictable ways. His thick-rimmed glasses reflected the fluorescent lights as he organized his notebooks with meticulous care. Mathematics came easily to him. Science felt like second nature, but history required a different kind of thinking, one that demanded he step outside his comfort zone of formulas and certainties. When Mrs. Henderson announced that the seating arrangement would be alphabetical, fate seemed to smile upon them. Mitchell, Sarah, and Thompson Michael found themselves side by side in the middle row, their shoulders nearly touching as they settled into their assigned positions. The proximity felt both comfortable and electric, though neither would have admitted it at the time. The first weeks of class established a rhythm between them. Sarah would arrive with her color-coded notes and perfectly organized binders, while Michael brought his analytical mind to bear on the complexities of American politics and social movements. They discovered that their different approaches to learning complemented each other beautifully. Sarah's intuitive understanding of human nature helped Michael grasp the emotional currents that drove historical events, while his logical framework provided structure to her sometimes scattered thoughts. Their partnership began innocently enough with shared textbooks when one of them inevitably forgot their materials. Small gestures of kindness, a borrowed pencil, a whispered clarification of an assignment, slowly built bridges between their separate worlds. Sarah belonged to the theater crowd, a group of creative souls who gathered in the drama room during lunch to discuss upcoming productions and practice their craft. Michael's domain was the computer lab, where he and his fellow technology enthusiasts explored the possibilities of the new personal computers that the school had recently acquired. What do you think about Sarah and Michael's first meeting? Can you feel the chemistry building between them? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more nostalgic stories like this one. Chapter 2, October, Observations. As the leaves transformed into brilliant shades of gold and crimson, so too did the relationship between Sarah and Michael deepen from mere academic cooperation to something more meaningful. The daily ritual of settling into their adjacent desks became a moment of anticipation for both of them, though they remained careful to maintain the facade of casual friendship. Michael found himself arriving at class earlier each day, not out of his usual anxiety about tardiness, but for the simple pleasure of watching Sarah enter the room. She had a way of moving through the world that fascinated him, purposeful yet graceful, confident yet approachable. When she smiled at him before taking her seat, something warm stirred in his chest that had nothing to do with the October heat that still lingered in the poorly ventilated classroom. Sarah, meanwhile, discovered that Michael's quiet intelligence masked a sharp wit and genuine curiosity about the world beyond equations and computer programs. During their whispered conversations about the Revolutionary War or the Civil Rights Movement, she glimpsed depths to his personality that his shy exterior had previously concealed. His insights often surprised her, revealing a sensitivity to human suffering and injustice that resonated with her own values. Their study sessions began spontaneously. When Mrs. Henderson announced a particularly challenging exam covering the Industrial Revolution, Sarah suggested they review the material together. They met in the library after school, claiming a corner table near the history section where they could spread out their notes and textbooks. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the pages as they worked, creating an atmosphere of intimacy that neither had experienced before. Michael's methodical approach to studying proved invaluable to Sarah, who sometimes felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information they were expected to absorb. He created detailed timelines and organizational charts that helped her see connections between different historical events. In return, Sarah's natural storytelling ability brought the dry facts to life, helping Michael understand the human drama behind political movements and social changes. As October drew to a close, they had established a comfortable routine of academic collaboration that masked the growing emotional connection between them. Their friends began to notice the subtle changes in their behavior, the way Sarah's eyes would light up when she talked about her history class, or how Michael seemed less anxious about social situations when Sarah was nearby. Yet both remained trapped by their own insecurities and the unspoken social rules that seem to govern teenage relationships. Are you enjoying watching Sarah and Michael's friendship blossom? What do you think will happen next? Make sure to subscribe to 80s Histories for more heartwarming tales from the decade of big hair and bigger dreams. Chapter 3. November. Nuances. The arrival of November brought with it a subtle shift in the dynamics of their relationship. The first frost had painted the windows of Lincoln High School with delicate patterns, and the shortening days seemed to draw Sarah and Michael closer together in the warm cocoon of their history classroom. What had begun as academic necessity had evolved into something neither of them could quite name, but both felt deeply. Mrs. Henderson assigned a major research project on the Great Depression, requiring students to work in pairs to explore different aspects of this pivotal period in American history. When she announced that students could choose their own partners, Sarah and Michael's eyes met across the rows of desks with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The decision felt momentous, as if they were acknowledging something that had been building between them for months. They chose to focus on the cultural impact of the Depression, particularly how it affected young people and their dreams for the future. The parallel to their own uncertain futures was not lost on either of them. As they spent long hours in the library, researching economic statistics and personal accounts from the era, they found themselves sharing more about their own hopes and fears than they had ever revealed to anyone else. Michael discovered that Sarah's involvement in theater wasn't just a hobby, but a passionate calling. She dreamed of studying drama in college, perhaps even pursuing a career in the arts, though she worried about the practical challenges of such a path. Her parents, well-meaning but conservative, had been pushing her toward more traditional career options like teaching or nursing. The weight of their expectations sometimes felt crushing, and she found herself sharing these concerns with Michael during their late-night phone calls about the project. Sarah learned that Michael's fascination with computers went beyond mere technical interest. He envisioned a future where technology would transform how people communicated and learned, though he struggled to articulate these ideas to anyone who didn't share his enthusiasm. His parents, both practical people who worked in manufacturing, couldn't understand why he wanted to pursue something as uncertain as computer science when he could have a stable career in engineering or medicine. Their research sessions evolved into something more personal and intimate. They began meeting at Sarah's house when her parents were working late, spreading their materials across the dining room table while soft music played in the background. The domestic setting felt natural and comfortable, as if they had been friends for years rather than months. Sarah would make hot chocolate while Michael organized their notes, and they would sit close together on the couch, reviewing their findings and planning their presentation. The project deadline approached with both anticipation and dread. They had created something beautiful together, a comprehensive analysis that combined Michael's methodical research with Sarah's creative presentation skills. But they both knew that completing the project would eliminate their excuse for spending so much time together. Neither wanted to acknowledge that their partnership had become about much more than academic achievement. Can you feel the tension building between our young lovers? What do you think will push them to finally acknowledge their feelings? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more romantic stories from the most memorable decade. Chapter 4. December. Decisions. December arrived with an unexpected warmth, as if the season itself was reluctant to let go of the possibilities that autumn had created. The holiday decorations that appeared throughout Lincoln High School seemed to cast everything in a more magical light, and Sarah and Michael found themselves caught up in the festive atmosphere that permeated their daily interactions. Their Great Depression project had been a resounding success, earning them not only an excellent grade, but also praise from Mrs. Henderson for their thorough research and creative presentation. The teacher had noted the obvious chemistry between them as partners, commenting that their different strengths had combined to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Her words lingered in both their minds, heavy with implications they weren't quite ready to explore. The approaching winter break created a sense of urgency that neither of them fully understood. They had grown so accustomed to their daily interactions in history class that the prospect of 2 weeks without seeing each other felt almost unbearable. Their friendship had become the highlight of their school day, a constant source of comfort and joy that they had both come to depend upon. Michael surprised himself by suggesting they exchange Christmas gifts. The idea came to him during one of their library sessions, as he watched Sarah carefully highlighting important passages in her textbook. He had never voluntarily participated in gift exchanges before, finding the social expectations around such gestures confusing and stressful. But with Sarah, the desire to find something that would make her smile felt natural and urgent. Sarah's response was immediate and enthusiastic, though she tried to hide her excitement behind a mask of casual interest. She had been hoping for some excuse to spend time with Michael outside of their academic routine, and the prospect of shopping for the perfect gift gave her the opportunity she had been seeking. She spent hours wandering through the local mall, searching for something that would capture the essence of what their friendship meant to her. The exchange took place on the last day of school before winter break, in the empty history classroom after the final bell had rung. The building felt different in the afternoon, quiet, more intimate and personal than it ever had during regular class hours. They sat at their usual desks, but the formal arrangement felt artificial now, so they moved to the floor near the windows, where the late afternoon sun created pools of golden light. Michael had chosen a leather-bound journal with lined pages, perfect for the creative writing that Sarah had mentioned enjoying. Inside the front cover, he had written a simple inscription, acknowledging their partnership and friendship, though he had struggled over the exact words for hours. The gift was practical but personal, reflecting his understanding of who she was and what she valued. Sarah's gift was a science fiction novel that she had noticed him reading during lunch breaks, but this was a signed first edition that she had found in a used bookstore downtown. The inscription she had written spoke of their shared love of learning and discovery, carefully crafted to convey her feelings without crossing any invisible lines. The thoughtfulness behind the gift moved Michael deeply, representing hours of effort and consideration that no one had ever invested in him before. As they sat together in the empty classroom, surrounded by the detritus of another semester, both realized that something fundamental had shifted between them. The formal boundaries of their student relationship had dissolved, replaced by something more genuine and vulnerable. Yet neither knew how to take the next step, how to bridge the gap between friendship and something more meaningful. The holiday season is bringing our couple closer together. What do you think will happen when they return from winter break? Be sure to subscribe to 80s Histories for more heartwarming stories from the era of neon and new wave. Chapter 5. January Jitters. The return to Lincoln High School after winter break brought with it the harsh reality of a new semester and the subtle changes that 2 weeks of separation had wrought between Sarah and Michael. The familiar hallways felt different somehow, charged with possibilities and weighted with unspoken expectations. Both had spent the holiday break thinking about their gift exchange and what it might mean for their relationship, but neither had found the courage to explore these feelings further. Sarah had filled several pages of her new journal with thoughts and observations about her friendship with Michael. The leather-bound book had become a confidant, holding her private musings about the boy who had quietly become the most important person in her daily life. She wrote about his gentle laugh, the way his eyes lit up when he explained a complex concept, and the comfortable silence they shared during their study sessions. Reading her own words made the depth of her feelings impossible to ignore. Michael had devoured the science fiction novel Sarah had given him, but more than the story itself, he treasured the thoughtful inscription she had written. He had read and reread her words, analyzing them with the same intensity he brought to mathematical equations. The care she had taken in choosing the gift suggested feelings that went beyond casual friendship, yet he remained paralyzed by the fear of misinterpreting her intentions. Their first history class of the new semester was awkward in a way that surprised them both. The easy camaraderie they had developed over months of sitting side by side felt strained and artificial. They exchanged polite pleasantries about their holiday breaks, but the deeper connection that had sustained them through the previous semester seemed to have gone underground, buried beneath layers of teenage uncertainty and social anxiety. Mrs. Henderson announced that the second semester would focus on 20th century American history, beginning with World War I and progressing through the modern era. The proximity to their own time period felt significant, as if they would be studying the events that had shaped the world they were about to enter as adults. The weight of impending graduation, still more than a year away, nonetheless cast a shadow over their daily interactions. The awkwardness between them gradually dissolved as they fell back into their established patterns of academic collaboration. Michael's systematic approach to organizing information proved invaluable as they tackled the complexities of global conflict and social change. Sarah's ability to connect historical events to human emotions helped bring the material to life in ways that made it relevant to their own experiences. Their study sessions resumed in the library, but something had shifted in the dynamic between them. The easy comfort of the previous semester had been replaced by a heightened awareness of each other's presence. When Sarah leaned over to point out a passage in a textbook, Michael found himself acutely conscious of her proximity. When Michael explained a complex political concept, Sarah noticed the way his hands moved as he spoke, the passion in his voice that emerged when he was truly engaged with an idea. The cold January weather provided new opportunities for small gestures of care and consideration. Michael began arriving at school earlier to warm up his old Honda Civic, offering Sarah rides on particularly bitter mornings. These brief journeys became precious moments of intimacy, sealed off from the rest of the world by the steamed windows and the gentle hum of the car's heater. They would sit in the parking lot for a few extra minutes after arriving, reluctant to break the spell of their private conversations. Sarah started bringing extra coffee from home in a thermos, sharing the warm beverage with Michael during their before-school meetings. The simple act of offering comfort felt natural and significant, a way of expressing care that transcended the boundaries of their academic partnership. These small rituals of kindness were building something deeper between them, though neither dared to name what they were creating. The new semester is bringing new challenges for our young couple. Can you feel the tension building between them? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more stories about love and life in the most exciting decade ever. Chapter 6. February. Feelings. February arrived with a vengeance, blanketing Lincoln High School in snow and creating a sense of isolation that seemed to draw Sarah and Michael even closer together. The harsh weather provided a legitimate excuse for spending more time indoors, and they found themselves lingering in the library long after their scheduled study sessions had ended. The shortened days and early darkness created an atmosphere of intimacy that made their conversations feel more personal and revealing. Valentine's Day loomed on the horizon like a challenge neither of them was prepared to face. The hallways buzzed with the usual teenage drama of romantic expectations and social pressures, but Sarah and Michael remained suspended in the uncertain space between friendship and something more. They watched their classmates navigate the rituals of adolescent romance with a mixture of envy and confusion, unsure of how to bridge the gap between their current relationship and what they both secretly desired. The history curriculum had progressed to the 1920s, and Mrs. Henderson's lessons about the Jazz Age and changing social norms felt particularly relevant to their own situation. They studied the ways that young people in the post-war era had challenged traditional expectations about courtship and relationships, and both wondered if they were experiencing their own version of social transformation. The parallels between historical change and personal growth were not lost on either of them. Michael surprised himself by developing an interest in the cultural aspects of the periods they were studying. Sarah's influence had awakened in him an appreciation for art, music, and literature that he had never experienced before. She introduced him to the poetry of the Harlem Renaissance, and he found himself moved by the emotional power of Langston Hughes and Claude McKay. In return, he shared his fascination with the technological innovations of the era, helping Sarah understand how scientific progress had shaped social change. Their phone conversations had become a nightly ritual that both treasured and feared. What began as brief discussions about homework assignments had evolved into hours-long explorations of ideas, dreams, and fears. They talked about their plans for college, their relationships with their families, and their hopes for the future. These conversations revealed depths to their personalities that neither had shared with anyone else, creating a bond that felt both precious and fragile. Sarah's involvement in the school's production of Our Town provided a new dimension to their relationship. Michael began attending rehearsals, ostensibly to help with the technical aspects of the production, but really to watch Sarah transform into her character. Seeing her on stage revealed a confidence and passion that took his breath away, and he found himself falling even more deeply under her spell. The cast party after opening night created an unexpected opportunity for their relationship to evolve. The celebration was held at the home of one of the senior drama students, and the relaxed atmosphere encouraged a level of social interaction that neither Sarah nor Michael usually experienced. They found themselves sitting together on a couch in the corner of the living room, watching their classmates dance to the latest hits from MTV. When Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison came on the stereo, Sarah impulsively asked Michael to dance. The slow ballad provided the perfect excuse for physical closeness that they had both been craving but had been too afraid to initiate. As they swayed together in the dimly lit room, surrounded by the chatter and laughter of their classmates, something fundamental shifted between them. The barriers that had kept them at arm's length for months began to crumble. The dance lasted only 3 minutes, but the effect was transformative. For the first time, they allowed themselves to acknowledge the physical attraction that had been building between them. Michael's hands on Sarah's waist felt natural and right, while Sarah's arms around his neck created a connection that transcended their previous friendship. When the song ended, they remained close for a moment longer than necessary, both reluctant to break the spell that had settled over them. Our couple is finally starting to acknowledge their feelings. What do you think will happen next? Make sure to subscribe to 80s Histories for more romantic stories from the decade that gave us the greatest love songs ever written. Chapter 7, March Momentum. March arrived with the promise of spring and a sense of renewed energy that permeated every aspect of life at Lincoln High School. The success of Sarah's theatrical performance had boosted her confidence, while Michael's growing comfort with social situations had made him more willing to take risks in their relationship. The dance they had shared at the cast party had broken down invisible barriers between them, though they still struggled to articulate what they meant to each other. The winter that had seemed to drag on forever finally began to loosen its grip, and the first tentative signs of spring appeared in the form of longer days and warmer temperatures. Sarah and Michael began taking walks during lunch breaks, exploring the neighborhoods around the school and discovering quiet spots where they could talk without the constant interruption of their classmates. These walks became adventures in themselves, opportunities to share observations about the world around them and to enjoy each other's company in a more natural setting. Their academic partnership had evolved into something seamless and intuitive. They no longer needed to discuss how to approach assignments or divide research tasks. They simply understood each other's strengths and preferences. Mrs. Henderson had begun using them as an example of effective collaboration, praising their ability to synthesize different perspectives into coherent arguments. The recognition felt good, but more importantly, it validated the special connection they had developed. Michael's growing confidence manifested in small but significant ways. He began expressing his opinions more freely in class discussions, drawing on insights he had gained from his conversations with Sarah. She had taught him to consider the emotional and social dimensions of historical events, while he had helped her develop more structured approaches to analyzing complex information. Their intellectual partnership had made them both better students and more thoughtful individuals. The approach of junior prom created a new source of tension and excitement in their relationship. The dance was still weeks away, but the anticipation had already begun to build throughout the school. Sarah's friends in the drama club had started planning their outfits and discussing potential dates, while Michael's small circle of friends seemed largely indifferent to the whole event. The social expectations surrounding prom felt daunting to both of them, yet they couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to attend together. Sarah found herself dropping subtle hints about the dance during their conversations, testing Michael's reaction and trying to gauge his interest. She mentioned the theme, the decorations committee, and the band that would be performing, all while watching his face for signs of enthusiasm or anxiety. Michael, meanwhile, was conducting his own internal debate about whether he had the courage to ask her to be his date. The fear of rejection warred with his growing certainty that she would say yes. Their relationship had reached a delicate balance point where both were aware of the other's feelings, but neither was willing to take the final step toward acknowledgement. They had developed a language of meaningful glances and casual touches that spoke volumes about their emotions, yet they remained trapped by the social conventions and personal insecurities that had defined their interactions for months. The breakthrough came during a late-night phone conversation in mid-March. They had been discussing their history assignment on the civil rights movement when the conversation drifted to more personal topics. Sarah mentioned feeling frustrated with the expectations that others placed on her, particularly regarding her future plans and romantic relationships. Michael, emboldened by the darkness and the intimacy of their phone connection, admitted that he had been struggling with similar feelings. In the safety of their separate bedrooms, connected only by the telephone line, they began to acknowledge truths they had been avoiding. Michael spoke about his fear of not being good enough for someone as talented and beautiful as Sarah, while she confessed her worry that her feelings for him were more intense than anything she had experienced before. The conversation lasted until nearly midnight, filled with long pauses and nervous laughter, but when they finally said goodbye, both felt that something irreversible had occurred. The next morning at school, they greeted each other with a new awareness of what they had shared the night before. The phone conversation had created a level of intimacy that couldn't be ignored, yet they still needed to navigate the transition from friendship to something more. The familiar routine of their history class felt different now, charged with possibility and weighted with the knowledge that their relationship was about to change in fundamental ways. The tension is building to a breaking point. Can you feel the electricity between Sarah and Michael? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more stories about young love in the most romantic decade ever. Chapter 8. April. Anticipation. April brought with it a sense of renewal and possibility that seemed to mirror the transformation occurring in Sarah and Michael's relationship. The campus had come alive with the vibrant colors of spring, and the warm weather had created a more relaxed atmosphere among the students. The approaching end of the school year added urgency to their situation, as both realized that their daily interactions in history class would soon come to an end. The prom question had become an unspoken presence in all their conversations, hovering between them like a challenge that neither was quite ready to face. Their classmates had begun the ritual of asking for dates and making elaborate plans, while Sarah and Michael remained locked in their careful dance of hints and hesitations. The pressure was building with each passing day, and both knew that someone would have to find the courage to speak first. Michael had been rehearsing different approaches to asking Sarah to prom, playing out various scenarios in his mind and practicing his words in front of his bedroom mirror. The fear of rejection still plagued him, but his growing confidence in their relationship had begun to outweigh his anxiety. He had observed the way Sarah looked at him during their conversations, noticed how she found excuses to touch his arm or shoulder, and felt the electric charge that passed between them during their moments of physical closeness. Sarah, meanwhile, had been dropping increasingly obvious hints about her interest in attending prom with Michael. She had mentioned the dress she was considering purchasing, talked about the dinner reservations that some of her friends were making, and even suggested that they might enjoy the dancing since they had discovered their compatibility during that magical moment at the cast party. Her friends had begun to tease her about her obvious feelings, encouraging her to take the initiative if Michael continued to hesitate. The breakthrough came during one of their afternoon walks around the neighborhood near school. They had discovered a small park with a pond where they often stopped to sit on a bench and continue their conversations. The setting was peaceful and private, surrounded by flowering trees and the gentle sound of water lapping against the shore. It was here that Michael finally found the courage to broach the subject that had been weighing on both their minds. The conversation began awkwardly, with Michael struggling to find the right words to express his feelings and his intentions. He spoke about how much their friendship had meant to him, how she had helped him become more confident and socially comfortable, and how he had come to value their time together above all other activities. Sarah listened with growing excitement, recognizing the preamble to the question she had been hoping to hear. When Michael finally asked her to prom, his voice was shaky with nervousness, but his sincerity was unmistakable. Sarah's response was immediate and enthusiastic, her face lighting up with joy that she made no attempt to hide. The moment felt simultaneously monumental and perfectly natural, as if they had been building toward this decision for months. The relief and happiness they both felt created a euphoria that lasted for the rest of their walk. The practicalities of prom planning provided a new focus for their relationship, giving them legitimate reasons to spend even more time together. They shopped for accessories, coordinated their outfits, and made dinner reservations at a restaurant that felt appropriately romantic for their first official date. The process of planning together felt like a rehearsal for the adult relationship they were both beginning to envision. Their classmates' reactions to the news of their prom date were uniformly positive, with many expressing surprise that it had taken them so long to acknowledge what had been obvious to everyone else. Mrs. Henderson, who had watched their partnership develop over the course of the school year, offered her congratulations with a knowing smile that suggested she had been expecting this development for months. As April drew to a close, Sarah and Michael found themselves in a state of nervous excitement about the approaching dance. They had crossed a crucial threshold in their relationship, moving from the safety of friendship into the uncharted territory of acknowledged romantic feelings. The prom represented not just a social milestone, but a symbolic beginning of their adult relationship, and both felt the weight of its significance. Finally, Michael has asked Sarah to prom. Can you feel the excitement building toward their special night? Be sure to subscribe to 80s Histories for more romantic stories from the decade that gave us the most memorable prom scenes in movie history. Chapter 9. May Magic. The weeks leading up to prom passed in a blur of excitement and preparation that transformed the final month of their junior year into something magical. Sarah and Michael had entered a new phase of their relationship, one characterized by an openness and affection that surprised them both with its naturalness. The formal acknowledgement of their romantic feelings had lifted a weight from their shoulders, allowing them to express emotions they had been carefully guarding for months. Their daily interactions at school took on a different quality now that they were officially a couple. Michael would wait for Sarah at her locker between classes, carrying her books and walking her to her next destination with a protective attentiveness that made her feel cherished. Sarah would seek him out during lunch breaks, preferring his quiet company to the dramatic social dynamics of her theater friends. These small gestures of devotion felt both thrilling and comfortable, as if they were finally allowing themselves to be who they had always wanted to be together. The prom preparations consumed their free time in the most delightful way. Sarah had chosen a deep blue dress that complemented her auburn hair and brought out the color of her eyes. Michael had rented a classic black tuxedo with a bow tie that matched her dress, and they had spent an afternoon selecting a corsage and boutonniere that would coordinate perfectly with their outfits. The attention to detail felt important to both of them, a way of honoring the significance of their first formal date. Their families had become invested in their relationship, with Sarah's parents expressing approval of Michael's respectful demeanor and academic achievements. Michael's parents, initially concerned about distractions from his studies, had warmed to Sarah's influence on their son's social development. The approval of their families added a legitimacy to their relationship that made it feel more adult and serious than typical teenage romance. The night of prom arrived with perfect weather and a sense of anticipation that had been building for weeks. Michael arrived at Sarah's house exactly on time, carrying himself with a confidence that had developed over the course of their relationship. When Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs in her blue dress, his breath caught in his throat. She looked radiant and sophisticated, transformed by the formal attire and the glow of happiness that surrounded her. The dinner they had planned at a nice restaurant downtown felt like a rehearsal for their adult life together. They talked easily about their hopes for senior year, their college plans, and their dreams for the future. The conversation flowed naturally between serious topics and playful banter, demonstrating the depth of understanding they had developed over months of friendship and growing romance. The prom itself exceeded all their expectations. The gymnasium had been transformed into a winter wonderland with silver decorations and twinkling lights that created an atmosphere of magic and romance. The music provided by the hired DJ mixed current hits with classic slow songs that gave couples opportunities for intimate dancing. Sarah and Michael spent most of the evening on the dance floor, lost in each other's company and the euphoria of their first formal date. Their slow dances were revelations of physical and emotional intimacy. Michael's initial nervousness about dancing had disappeared, replaced by a natural grace that surprised him. Sarah felt completely comfortable in his arms, as if they had been dancing together for years rather than sharing their second dance ever. The music seemed to fade into the background as they swayed together, aware only of each other and the perfect rightness of the moment. The traditional prom photos captured their happiness in images that would become treasured memories. They posed with other couples, with their individual friend groups, and in romantic portraits that showcased their obvious devotion to each other. The photographer commented on their natural chemistry, noting how comfortable they appeared together and how their affection showed in every image. As the evening wound down, Sarah and Michael joined a group of friends for a late-night visit to a nearby diner, continuing the celebration in a more casual setting. The transition from formal elegance to comfortable casualness felt natural and easy, reflecting the genuine foundation of their relationship. They sat close together in the booth, sharing dessert and laughing at their friends' stories about the evening's events. Prom night was everything they dreamed it would be. Can you imagine how magical that first formal dance must have felt? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more heartwarming stories from the era of shoulder pads and synthesizers. Chapter 10. June Journeys. The end of junior year brought with it a bittersweet mixture of relief and anticipation that characterized the transition from one phase of their lives to another. Sarah and Michael had successfully navigated their first month as an official couple, and the experience had deepened their connection in ways that surprised them both. The daily structure of school that had brought them together was about to disappear for the summer, but they faced the prospect of increased freedom with excitement rather than anxiety. Their final history class with Mrs. Henderson felt like the end of an era. The teacher who had unwittingly orchestrated their meeting through alphabetical seating had watched their relationship develop with maternal satisfaction. Her farewell comments to the class included a special acknowledgement of their partnership, noting how their collaboration had enhanced not only their own learning, but had also set an example for their classmates. The summer stretched ahead of them with unprecedented possibilities for spending time together. Michael had secured a part-time job at a local computer store, while Sarah had been accepted into a summer theater program that would allow her to explore her dramatic interests while earning money as a camp counselor. Their schedules would be different from the rigid routine of school, but they would have evenings and weekends to continue developing their relationship. Their first summer date was a picnic in the park, where they had shared so many meaningful conversations during their lunch breaks. Sarah had prepared sandwiches and homemade cookies, while Michael had brought a radio and a blanket for sitting on the grass. The informal setting allowed them to relax in ways that school had never permitted, talking freely about their hopes and fears without the pressure of academic deadlines or social expectations. The physical aspects of their relationship began to evolve during these summer afternoons. The progression from hand-holding to more intimate embraces happened gradually and naturally, always accompanied by deep conversations that reinforced their emotional connection. They discovered that their physical compatibility matched their intellectual and emotional bonds, creating a harmony that felt both exciting and comfortable. Michael's job at the computer store provided him with insights into the rapidly changing world of technology that he eagerly shared with Sarah. He would describe the latest software developments and hardware innovations with the enthusiasm of someone who could see the future unfolding before his eyes. Sarah, in turn, shared stories from her theater work, describing the creative process and the collaborative nature of dramatic production in ways that helped Michael understand her artistic passion. Their families had begun to treat them as an established couple, including them in family gatherings and treating their relationship with the respect typically reserved for adult partnerships. Sarah's parents invited Michael to their annual 4th of July barbecue, while Michael's family included Sarah in their traditional camping trip to a nearby lake. These family integrations felt like important steps toward a more serious future together. The summer also provided opportunities for them to explore their individual interests while maintaining their strong connection. Sarah's theater work introduced her to new friends and creative challenges, while Michael's job allowed him to develop technical skills and professional confidence. They discovered that their individual growth actually strengthened their relationship, giving them new experiences to share and discuss. Their evening phone conversations had become a cherished ritual that both looked forward to throughout their busy days. These talks often lasted for hours, covering everything from mundane daily events to profound philosophical discussions about life and love. The telephone had become their lifeline, maintaining their intimacy even when physical distance separated them. As June gave way to July, Sarah and Michael reflected on how much their relationship had evolved since that first awkward encounter in Mrs. Henderson's classroom. The shy, uncertain teenagers who had been thrown together by alphabetical chance had grown into confident young adults who were beginning to envision a shared future. The foundation they had built through months of friendship and academic collaboration had proven strong enough to support the weight of romantic love. Summer is giving our couple new opportunities to grow together. What adventures do you think await them in the months ahead? Make sure to subscribe to 80s Histories for more romantic stories from the decade that gave us the best summer love songs. Chapter 11. Senior Year Surprises. The beginning of senior year brought with it a complex mixture of excitement and melancholy that seemed to permeate every aspect of life at Lincoln High School. Sarah and Michael returned to campus in September as seasoned veterans, their relationship having matured over the summer months into something that felt both comfortable and passionate. The hallways that had once seemed intimidating now felt like home, and their status as an established couple had earned them a place in the social hierarchy that neither had previously enjoyed. Their class schedules had separated them for the first time since they had met, with Michael taking advanced mathematics and science courses, while Sarah focused on literature and drama. The absence of their shared history class created an unexpected challenge, forcing them to be more intentional about finding time to connect during the busy school day. They discovered that the effort required to maintain their relationship actually strengthened it, making their stolen moments together feel more precious and meaningful. College applications loomed large in their thoughts and conversations, adding a new dimension of uncertainty to their relationship. Michael had been accepted into the early admission program at the State University's engineering school, while Sarah was considering several options for theater and liberal arts programs. The possibility of being separated by distance after graduation created an underlying tension that they both felt but were reluctant to discuss directly. Their individual academic achievements had reached new heights, with both earning recognition as top students in their respective areas of focus. Michael's computer science projects had attracted attention from local technology companies, while Sarah's dramatic performances had earned her leads in the fall play and recognition from regional theater organizations. Their success seemed to feed on itself, with each accomplishment providing motivation for further achievement. The fall drama production of Romeo and Juliet provided Sarah with her most challenging role yet, and Michael had volunteered to help with the technical aspects of the production. Working together on the play brought back memories of their early collaboration in history class, but with a new dimension of creative partnership. Michael's technical innovations enhanced Sarah's performance, while her artistic vision inspired him to push the boundaries of what was possible with the school's limited resources. Homecoming dance in October provided them with another opportunity to celebrate their relationship publicly. This time, they approached the event with the confidence of an established couple, enjoying the planning process and the dance itself without the nervous uncertainty that had characterized their prom experience. Their friends and classmates had come to see them as a model couple, and they felt comfortable in their role as representatives of stable, mature, teenage romance. The holiday season brought with it a deeper level of gift-giving that reflected their growing commitment to each other. Michael had saved money from his summer job to purchase a delicate gold necklace for Sarah, while she had commissioned a local artist to create a custom piece of artwork that incorporated elements of both their interests. The exchange of these more significant gifts felt like a milestone in their relationship, an acknowledgement of their intention to continue building a future together. Their conversations about college and career plans had become more serious and detailed, with both recognizing that their decisions would inevitably affect their relationship. They had begun to research universities that offered strong programs in both their areas of interest, exploring the possibility of attending the same institution, or at least remaining geographically close. The practical aspects of maintaining a long-distance relationship, if necessary, had become a frequent topic of discussion. As winter deepened and the school year progressed toward its midpoint, Sarah and Michael found themselves facing the reality that their high school experience was rapidly drawing to a close. The routines and relationships that had defined their adolescence were about to change dramatically, and they both felt the weight of impending transformation. Their love had become the anchor that kept them grounded amidst the uncertainty of their approaching graduation. The announcement of the senior class winter formal dance created a new source of excitement and anticipation in their relationship. This would be their final formal dance as high school students, and both felt the symbolic significance of the occasion. The dance was scheduled for early February, and they began planning their celebration with the same attention to detail that had characterized their prom preparation, but with the added depth of experience and maturity that their relationship had developed. Senior year is bringing new challenges and opportunities for our couple. Can you feel the anticipation building toward their final school dance? Don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more stories about young love navigating the transition to adulthood. Chapter 12. The Dance That Made It Real. February 14th, 1983, arrived with a crystalline clarity that seemed to mirror the profound transformation about to occur in Sarah and Michael's relationship. The senior winter formal had been scheduled for Valentine's Day, creating a romantic backdrop that felt almost too perfect to be coincidental. After nearly 2 years of growing together, they stood on the threshold of their final high school dance, both sensing that this evening would mark a definitive moment in their journey from friendship to lasting love. The gymnasium had been transformed into a winter wonderland, more elaborate than any previous school dance. Silver streamers cascaded from the ceiling, creating the illusion of falling snow, while hundreds of white lights twinkled like stars against the darkened walls. The decoration committee had outdone themselves, creating an atmosphere that felt magical and ethereal, perfectly suited for the romantic milestone that awaited Sarah and Michael. Their preparation for the evening had been marked by a sense of ceremony that distinguished it from their previous formal occasions. Sarah had chosen a sophisticated black dress that reflected her growing maturity and confidence, while Michael had purchased his first tuxedo rather than renting, a decision that symbolized his commitment to marking this occasion as permanently significant. Their attention to detail extended to every aspect of their appearance, from Sarah's elegant updo to Michael's perfectly polished shoes. The dinner they shared before the dance took place at the same restaurant where they had celebrated prom night, but the conversation had evolved to reflect the depth of their relationship and their shared vision for the future. They talked openly about their college plans, which had now been coordinated to ensure they would attend universities within driving distance of each other. The practical aspects of maintaining their relationship beyond high school had been carefully considered and planned, demonstrating their commitment to building a lasting partnership. As they entered the decorated gymnasium, Sarah and Michael felt the weight of collective expectation from their classmates and teachers. Their relationship had become legendary within the school, a model of teenage romance that had inspired envious admiration and hopeful emulation. Mrs. Henderson, now teaching a different class, but still maintaining interest in their progress, greeted them with a warm smile that acknowledged the full circle their relationship had completed since that first day in her history classroom. The early part of the evening followed familiar patterns of socializing and casual dancing, but both Sarah and Michael sensed that something more significant was building toward the evening's climax. The DJ had been carefully briefed about their request for a special song, and they waited with growing anticipation for the moment when their chosen ballad would provide the soundtrack for their most important dance together. When the opening notes of total eclipse of the heart filled the gymnasium, Sarah and Michael exchanged a look of perfect understanding. This was their moment, the culmination of nearly 2 years of shared growth and deepening love. As they moved together onto the dance floor, the other couples seemed to fade into the background, leaving them alone in their bubble of romantic intensity. The dance itself transcended physical movement to become an expression of everything they had built together. Michael's arms around Sarah felt like the safest place in the world, while Sarah's head resting against his shoulder represented a trust and vulnerability that had developed through countless shared experiences. As they swayed to the music, both felt the profound realization that this was no longer teenage infatuation, but mature love that would define the rest of their lives. The song seemed to last forever and end too quickly simultaneously. When the final notes faded away, Sarah and Michael remained in their embrace for a moment longer, neither wanting to break the spell that had settled over them. In that moment of perfect stillness, surrounded by the celebration of their classmates, but aware only of each other, they both understood that their relationship had crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of happiness and contentment. They danced to every song, posed for pictures with friends, and celebrated the milestone that their relationship had reached. But nothing could match the perfection of that single dance. The moment when two teenagers who had been brought together by alphabetical chance discovered that they had found their soulmate in the most unlikely of circumstances. As they drove home in the early morning hours, Sarah and Michael reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From their first awkward conversation in Mrs. Henderson's history class to this perfect dance on Valentine's Day, they had grown together in ways that had surprised and delighted them both. The future stretched ahead with all its uncertainties and challenges, but they faced it together, united by a love that had been tested and proven strong enough to last a lifetime. And there it is, the dance that made it real. After 2 years of growing together, Sarah and Michael have finally found their forever love. What a beautiful journey it's been, from that first day in history class to this perfect Valentine's Day dance. Thank you for joining us for this romantic story. And don't forget to subscribe to 80s Histories for more heartwarming tales from the most nostalgic decade ever.